S-Cole Nation. Buckle up because we've got some real movement happening in Eagan right now. The Vikings are this close to wrapping up a deal that could seriously stabilize our secondary. And the name being talked about? Rasul Douglas. Yeah, you heard me right. The same Rasul Douglas who made noise in Green Bay and was a straight-up ball hawk in Buffalo in 2023. Sources are saying a deal is just about done, and I'm here to break it all down for you, the good, the bad, and what this means for the Vikings defense going forward. Let's dive in. Let's be real. The cornerback room in Minnesota has been a bit shaky. Yes, we re-signed Byron Murphy Jr., and that's big, but we lost Shaquille Griffin to Seattle, and Stephon Gilmore doesn't look like he's coming back either. So right now we've got Mekhi Blackmon coming off a torn ACL Isaiah Rodgers, a career backup Jeff Okudah, former top pick, but let's be honest, he's been underwhelming to put it nicely. That's why this Rasul Douglas move makes a whole lot of sense. The team clearly doesn't want to leave this to chance. So who's Rasul Douglas? He's a 29-year-old veteran corner with 19 career interceptions and 65 passes defended over 7 seasons. He was originally drafted by Philly, but really found his groove with the Packers and then exploded when Buffalo traded for him mid-season in 2023 in those 9 games with the Bills. He allowed a completion percentage of just 51.3% and a QB passer rating of 38.6 when targeted. That's elite production. That's shutdown corner numbers. Now, yes, 2024 wasn't great. He gave up a 72.9% completion rate and a 122 passer rating, worst of his career. But honestly, that Bills secondary as a whole fell apart late last year. I'm not ready to say he's washed. Let's talk money. Douglas just finished up a 3-year, $21 million deal. SpotRack originally projected he could land another 3-year deal worth over $35 million, but after the drop-off in 2024 and sitting on the market this long, the Vikings are close to locking him up on a cheap 1-year prove-it deal, low risk, high reward, and frankly, exactly the kind of veteran depth this secondary needs. Look, if Rasul ends up starting opposite Byron Murphy, that pushes Rodgers and Okudah into rotational and matchup roles, where they belong, and for Brian Flores' scheme, that's huge. You know how aggressive he likes to be. You need press corners who can win one-on-one while the pressure gets home. Rasul's physical, he's long, he's smart, and when he's on, he gets his hands on the football, something we've been sorely lacking in the past couple seasons. Just think about this secondary. Byron Murphy Jr., Rasul Douglas, Mekhi Blackmon in the slot, when healthy Josh Metellus and Harrison Smith on the back end, and Isaiah Rodgers as a return ace and rotational corner. That's depth. That's versatility. That's a playoff caliber DB room when healthy. Now I know some of y'all are gonna say, Victor, Rasul was cooked last year. Why bring in another aging vet? And listen, I get that, but we're not giving him $12 million a year. We're not handing him CB1 duties on a silver platter. This is a smart, affordable move for a defense that's trying to take that next step. And if Douglas even plays close to his 2023 form, man, this could be one of the steals of the offseason. But I want to hear from you. Do you like the move? Should Rasul Douglas start on the outside? Or would you rather give those snaps to a young guy like Okudah or Rodgers? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one. Alright, S-Cole fam, we'll keep our ears to the ground on the official signing. But as of right now, all signs point to Rasul Douglas joining the purple and gold very, very soon. Smash that like button if you're hyped about fortifying the secondary. Subscribe to Report Vikings if you want daily updates, analysis, and straight talk from a fan who lives and breathes this team. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing, especially if the front office has another move up its sleeve. This is Victor, S-Cole as always. And now let's see the latest news around the NFL.
This morning, Jeremy Fowler polling NFL executives, scouts, and coaches in order to rank the top 10 players at each position. So this is a whole series. Today, we're going to look at the league's top defensive tackles, according to these polls. Dexter Lawrence tops this year's list after ranking 3rd last season. He's followed by last year's number 1, Chris Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, Quinnen Williams also make the top 5 for the 2nd straight year. And Jalen Carter, Leonard Williams, Vita Vea, Cam Hayward find themselves in the top 10 after not cracking the list before last season. So, D-Wood, when you look at that list, And which player do you see on here that you would have given, you or you would have given the most trouble back in the day?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, listen, Dexter Lawrence. You know, Laura, I came into the league as a center, so having a 350-plus pound nose tackle who can rush the passer, that's always a tough assignment for me. Jalen Carter. That young bull still doesn't know how good he is right now. So that's another guy. But I think those two guys probably on that list will probably give me the most trouble.
I mean, I was trying to say, would have given you the most trouble, or you would have given the most trouble.
Oh, I'd have given that word too now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's not get it twisted.
I didn't want to. I'm glad that you told him straight there. All right, let's stay in New York, but focused our attention to the other team. The Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner spoke to our Rich Cimini about what it's like having Aaron Glenn in the building, saying, quote, "I know I'm not perfect, but the fact that he's trying to get perfection out of me is what I need, because, I've had a lot of success, early success in the league, and the last thing I need is a new regime to come in here and just allow me to be complacent. I'm not saying that's who I am, but it's great to just have those type of guys that are going to demand a lot out of me and just push me in ways that I've never been pushed before." So since winning AP Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2022, Sauce Gardner has done a lot, right? He's taken a step back, though. In his 25% ball hawk rate, his rookie season was the best in the NFL. Last season, it fell to 18%. He allowed over 3 more yards per target last season in 2024 compared to 2022. He allowed quarterbacks to complete more passes than expected when he was the nearest defender last season. So certainly falling back. Field, how much of an impact do you think Aaron Glenn will have on Sauce Gardner's improvement now that he's taking over?
Yeah, Laura, if there is perhaps a downside to being so great so early like Sauce Gardner was, is that there's a human side to that, which is you might think you've got it figured out. And Sauce Gardner has still been an excellent player over the past 2 seasons, but maybe not quite as dominant last year as he was during his first season in the NFL. I hear coaches all the time talk about it's not about how you got here, it's about what you do with your opportunity that matters the most. I'm not sure there's a coach who actually acts that truth more than Aaron Glenn, because it doesn't matter whether you were the first overall pick in the draft or an undrafted free agent. This is a man who entered the NFL as a first-round pick himself. He went on to a very successful playing career, and he still treats all players, regardless of pedigree, like they have to earn their job every single day. We know schematically there's going to be a ton of man coverage because Aaron Glenn loves to dial up the blitz. That should be good for Sauce Gardner, but equally as important in my mind is the daily challenge he will receive from his head coach, who has walked in those same shoes as a former first-round and highly successful cornerback.
Yeah, I love what Sauce said about not wanting to be complacent. That's a good sign. Let's talk about the offensive side for the Jets. Of course, the big change was moving on from Aaron Rodgers and the arrival of Justin Fields. Fields has 8 wins over his last 12 starts. He had just 6 in his first 32 starts. He also continued to be a threat with his arm and legs while cutting down on turnovers significantly. That's important for him. He'll look to boost a Jets quarterback room that's ranked last in total QBR over the last 10 seasons. Alan, what do you think is going to be a big factor in Justin Fields finding success in New York?
I think the biggest factor is just him staying away from negative plays. I think we saw the playmaking ability over his career, but to me, when you can stay away from negative plays and have success on first and second down, you make it third and manageable. I think for him, being able to be out of as many drop back situations as possible, really caters to his skill set. You want to be in 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3 so that you have your offensive playbook ahead of you. And also with Garrett Wilson, him on the outside, he wants to be in those 3rd and short situations. He can run a slant. He can run a go. He has options. But when you now are in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and Justin Fields is in pure drop back situations, it makes it tough on everybody.
Listen, I think, the one thing that we talk about with Justin Fields throughout his early career is sacks. Sacks are killer. I think that's got to be one thing that he cleans up. But I also think in this offense, it's going to be catered to him. Tanner Engstrand, the new offensive coordinator, who saw plenty of them, from when Justin Fields was in Chicago. I think this is going to be a run-heavy offense. If the Jets don't lead the league in rushing attempts this year, I don't know what they're doing. You got to run it. You got a quarterback that's a very good athlete. You've invested heavily in the offensive line, which I think should be the strength of your team. And you have 3 really good backs in the backfield led by Breece Hall. Yeah. That, to me, should be the strength and the focus of the Jets offense with Justin Fields.
And the offensive coordinator comes from Detroit, where they got really good the last couple of years at using multiple backs and creating explosive plays with those guys. So I agree with you. And I think if you don't use Justin Fields' legs as a weapon, that's a huge mistake. So obviously I think they will too. But you talk about Garrett Wilson, and this is a guy, at the end of last year, things were pretty sour for him in New York. He wasn't getting along with Rodgers, didn't like what was going on in the offense. So they really kind of locked in this offseason and started, kind of trying to, let's make this comfortable for him. We want him here long term. They bring in his college quarterback. that doesn't hurt, right? Like we've seen that work a couple of places. So I think Garrett Wilson, when you look at Justin Fields last year in Chicago, yes, they ran it a lot, but DJ Moore was somebody who was making huge plays down the field. So if Justin Fields has chemistry with that wide receiver, I think you could see, when it's called for.
Yeah.
The DNA of that offense will be the run game, but I think they'll have Justin Fields play to his strengths in the passing game as well.
Alan, so often we talk about chemistry between the quarterback and wide receiver. Like, how important is that really, and how much of it is actually on the field and maybe off the field as well?
Chemistry is extremely important. I mean, you want to be after practice with your quarterbacks, in meeting with your quarterbacks, eating lunch with your quarterbacks. You want to be able to spend as much time with your quarterback as possible. And also Garrett Wilson, he has a familiarity with Justin Fields. So them being able to have that experience and being able to translate that maybe from college to now playing on Sundays, with them having the experience that they do have, that's a good building block for them. So I think that they'll continue to build off of that. And again, I mean, he knows what Garrett Wilson likes. You've played with somebody in college, you've played that's, 18 years old, 19 years old. So they have a lot of familiarity with each other. So, I think that'll be big for them.
They were super close in college. I mean, that chemistry was right there. It was a big reason why Ohio State was as good as they were. You think about all the great receivers coming out of there. All right, still to come. Let's talk about Pete Carroll. A little over a year ago, right in Atlanta, you'll remember the big signing of Kirk Cousins, the big deal, and then boom, they draft Michael Penix Jr. in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. Cousins struggles. The Falcons made way for the rookie, Penix Jr., to take over at quarterback, and now Cousins is in limbo. And so here's more from Cousins himself on leaving Minnesota in the first place. This is pretty interesting. He said, certainly, if I had that information around free agency, he's talking about them drafting Penix, it would have affected my decision. I had no reason to leave Minnesota with how much we loved it there if both teams were going to be drafting quarterback high. But I've also learned in 12 years in this league that you're not entitled to anything. It's all about earning your spot, improving yourself. So I don't know. I felt like that's one of the more revealing things he said about all this. He's been pretty quiet about the decision to leave Minnesota in the first place. And Graz, you followed this story really closely when it all went down. So what do you think of these comments?
Yeah, very similar to what his agent was saying the night that Penix got picked. Right. They weren't upfront with us about this and all. Now, leaving Minnesota, Minnesota tried to keep him. Atlanta was offering a lot more in guaranteed money. He's coming off an injury. That probably had a lot to do with it. But no, he did not know they were going to draft a quarterback in the first round. And obviously, having been benched for Michael Penix last year, his hope going into this offseason was that they would cut him. Or if not, then they would trade him. But they refused to cut him, and they haven't found a trade partner. So he is, as you say, in limbo as Penix's backup. Unless somebody comes with a much more significant trade offer than has been presented to Atlanta so far, I think that's where he starts the season. And look, Penix got hurt a lot in college. The Falcons would tell you they don't mind having a veteran back up there in case something does happen.
Smart.
So, and Kirk's not going to rock the boat. That right there is as controversial as Kirk's ever going to get. So I don't think he's going to cause any problems. He's probably going to be a help to Michael Penix.
Yeah, listen, and Alan, you know this as well, playing the league. You're not owed anything. These teams don't owe you anything out here. And it's unfortunate what happened as far as the Falcons going out there and picking Michael Penix Jr. But at the same time, it's like you got an opportunity to double dip and secure your long-term, your future quarterback in that young man. But Graz, I think you brought up a great point. The fact that Michael Penix Jr., he has a very long injury history dating back into his days